You ever get that feeling like the road's watching you? Not just the folks driving past or a state trooper hiding behind a speed sign, I'm talking the road itself. Like it's alive in some quiet way, waiting to see if you're the kind that makes it through the night. I know, sounds like I've been running on too little sleep and too much gas station coffee, but let me tell you something. I've been driven rigs up and down these highways for over 20 years, and in that time, I've seen things that still wake me up in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat, heart racing, breath caught in my throat like I just dodged something that wasn't supposed to exist. You sit long enough behind the wheel, especially after midnight, your mind starts wandering. But sometimes it ain't your mind wandering, it's something else wandering close to you. Some places, some roads, they ain't just pavement. And dirt, they're old, they remember things. They feed on silence. And late at night, when the only sound you hear is your own engine humming and the occasional CB squawk, you start noticing little things. Headlights that follow you a bit too long, shapes in the rear view that don't match the truck behind you, or a hitchhiker that looks more like a statue than a person. And it ain't always ghosts or creatures, nah. Sometimes it's places themselves. Roads that shift. Gas stations that weren't there yesterday. Time getting slippery like the truck's driven through something thicker than fog. I don't tell many folks these stories. Hell, most wouldn't believe me if I did. But you're here listening, and that tells me you're either real, curious, or you've seen something too. Either way, buckle in. 'Cause I got stories. And every one of them happened after the sun went down and the highway went quiet. So let's start with one that still makes my stomach tighten every time. I pass exit 232 on Route 89. It was supposed to be a routine overnight run. Cattle feed from Kansas up through northern Colorado. Clear skies, full tank, good trailer brakes. But it all went sideways just past 2 in the morning when I saw a man standing in the middle of the road with no headlights reflecting off his clothes, like he was made of smoke and just standing there waiting for me to stop. I hit the brakes harder than I probably should have. The tires groaned and the trailer rocked behind me, but I managed to keep her straight without jackknifing. That man, or whatever it was, didn't even flinch. He just stood there in the dead center of the highway like he'd been expecting me. Now listen, I've dealt with my fair share of road weirdos. Folks wandering off from rest stops, dazed, or high, sometimes just broken down and desperate for help. But this guy didn't look right. I mean that in every way. He was too tall. Had to be at least 7 feet, but not in a basketball player kind of way. More like he'd been stretched. His arms hung too long, like they ended past his knees. His head looked wrong, too shaved bald, but too round, like it was swollen, and his skin, I swear under the low beams it looked gray, like weathered concrete. I kept my hands on the wheel and stared through the windshield, hoping he'd move. Or maybe I'd realize it was just exhaustion messing with me. But he didn't budge. I flashed the high beams at him. Still didn't move. Just kept looking, though I couldn't tell if he had eyes. My gut told me to back up and turn around. But my brain said maybe he's in trouble. Maybe he needs help. That split-second hesitation is how people get themselves into things they don't walk away from, but I put the truck in neutral and flipped on the flashers anyway. I opened the door and stepped out, keeping one foot on the step, engine rumbling. Under me like it was nervous too. I called out, "Hey, you all right?" But my voice sounded thin, like it got swallowed up by the night. No echo, no crickets, no wind. Just that man-shaped thing in the road, standing still like a statue. And then he tilted his head, slow, deliberate, like a dog trying to understand a noise. That's when I felt it. Not fear exactly, not yet. More like pressure in my chest, like standing too close to a thunderstorm about to break. I wasn't sure if I was seeing a man anymore or something pretending to be one. I didn't wait to find out. I slammed the door shut, threw the truck into gear, and started forward, not toward him, but just enough to let the engine's lights wash over him fully. That's when I realized he didn't cast a shadow. The pavement behind him stayed the same, even with light directly on him. That's when the fear hit, not the kind that makes you scream. The kind that makes your hands go numb and your mouth dry like cotton. I threw the wheel to the left and eased around him as best I could, tires creeping onto the shoulder. I didn't look directly at him as I passed, but I could feel him watching, not with curiosity, with hunger. Like I was the first real thing he'd seen in a long, long time. And as I passed him by, real slow, the CB crackled to life on its own. And a voice came through, my voice. Not the radio, not an echo. My voice saying, "You shouldn't have stopped." I've never heard my own voice sound that cold before. I floored it. Didn't think twice. My trailer rocked a bit as I pulled back onto the road, but I didn't care. I just wanted distance between me and whatever the hell that thing was. The CB was still hissing softly like it was breathing. No other voices, no chatter from other drivers, just static laced with something that sounded too wet and too close. I reached for the knob to turn it off, but froze when I saw the dial was already set to 0. Dead silent off, and yet that static kept hissing through, whispering like something was trying to crawl its way through the wires. I kept my eyes forward and gripped the wheel so hard my knuckles popped. The road stretched ahead, a long ribbon of black broken only by the cone of my headlights. Every now and then, the beams would catch the trees lining the shoulder, and I swore I saw movement quick, jerky flashes like something ducking behind a trunk just out of view. Could have been deer, could have been my nerves, but deep down I knew it wasn't either. My GPS flickered for a second, then shut off completely. The screen went black and never came back. That's when I glanced at the dash clock. It was frozen at 2:17 a.m., the exact time I first saw him. It stayed stuck there for the next 30 miles. I drove in silence, the only sound now the low growl of my engine and the faint sound of my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. I was too scared to pull over, too afraid that if I slowed down, I'd see him again. Or worse, he'd be waiting inside the cab. I checked my mirrors more times than I can count, convinced I'd see him standing on the back of the trailer or walking down the middle of the road behind me. But there was nothing, just emptiness. Eventually I started passing landmarks I recognized, mile markers, an old billboard for a diner that burned down years ago, and finally the lights of a way station up ahead. Relief started to creep in, but it was cautious, like I didn't trust it yet. I pulled in, parked behind a couple other trucks, and killed the engine. The silence hit me like a slap. Not the peaceful kind of quiet. This was deep and unnatural, like everything had paused. Even the other trucks weren't making noise. No engines, no footsteps, no doors, just stillness. I stepped out of my cab, expecting to stretch and shake off the ride, but the moment I touched the ground, I felt it again, that pressure, that heaviness. I walked toward the building, but something felt wrong. There was no one inside. The lights were on, the coffee pot was half full, a clipboard lay on the desk like someone had just stepped out, but no people. It was like they'd all vanished seconds before I arrived. I backed out slowly, every hair on my arm standing up. When I got back to my truck, I found the door was unlocked. I always lock it, always, and sitting right there on my seat was a single branch twisted, bent and damp like it had been pulled from deep in the woods. I didn't put it there. I stared at that branch for a long time, not wanting to get in the cab, not wanting to touch it, like it might still be warm from someone or something placing it there. It looked unnatural, all bent and sharp, knotted curves, the kind you don't find near the road. It was slick, like it had been dipped in sap or blood, and it left a faint wet mark where it rested on the seat. I felt sick just looking at it. I reached up, popped the glove box open, and grabbed an old pair of leather gloves I used for chaining tires in the snow. Slipped them on and picked the branch up carefully, holding it like it might bite. It felt heavier than it should have, not like wood, like bone. I tossed it into the trash barrel behind the way station, but not before noticing something I hadn't the first time. I swear to you. The damn thing had a tooth embedded in the bark. A human tooth. I stood there for a second too long, my eyes stinging, my chest tight. I wanted to get back on the road, get out of there, but I didn't know what direction was safe anymore. That stretch of highway had changed. Felt like I'd crossed into something else, like the world had tilted just enough to let something through. I climbed back into the truck, locked the doors twice, and just sat there with the engine off. Not a single sound outside. You ever sit in silence so thick you start hearing your own blood moving? That's what it felt like. After maybe 10 minutes, I turned the key, half expecting the truck not to start, but she fired up like nothing happened. The radio came back, too, but it wasn't on my usual station. It was tuned to a frequency I'd never seen before, something between channels, like a number station. A slow, steady beeping, and under that, a woman's voice, soft and broken, whispering something I couldn't quite understand. I turned it off. Didn't want to hear what came next. I pulled out of the way station lot and back onto the road, pushing the rig harder than I usually do, tires humming like they wanted out just as bad as I did. And for a while, nothing happened. Just me, the road, and the kind of silence that gets under your skin. But then I started noticing something that didn't sit right. I passed the same roadkill 3 times. A coyote hit hard, guts spilled across the median. Same one, exact same spot. 3 times. I started marking it, counting the miles, watching the signs. And that's when I knew I wasn't driven forward anymore. I was stuck in a loop. The GPS still dead, the dash clock still frozen at 2:17, and my cell phone, blank screen, no signal. No battery life, just black. I was moving, sure, but I wasn't getting anywhere. It was like the road had folded over itself, and I was caught in its grip, chewing me like gum stuck in a tire tread. I can't tell you how long I drove like that, felt like hours. But my body didn't ache the way it should have. No cramps in my legs, no stiffness in my back. Just that same repeating stretch of highway and the smell of hot rubber and something faint underneath it like old meat left out in the sun too long. I passed the coyote a 4th time, and that's when I stopped pretending it was a coincidence. I slowed the rig down, coasted off to the shoulder, and sat there in the cab with my hands still on the wheel. The air inside was thick, humid even, like I was breathing through wool. I reached for the thermos in my side pocket just to do something. Normal, something human. Took a sip of cold coffee and held it in my mouth a second. Didn't taste right. Bitter, metallic. I spat it back into the cup and looked out the windshield. That's when I saw the mile marker. 232. The same one I'd passed when I first saw the tall man. Only this time it wasn't just standing there lonely by the road. This time, there was someone leaning against it. From that distance, I couldn't make out the face, but I could see the shape. Slouched, casual, like they were waiting on a bus. The lights from my truck just barely touched M, but the reflection off their eyes, yeah, I said eyes, was what made my stomach twist. It was the same cold glow from earlier, only now it wasn't from a shadow in the road. It was from a figure that looked more human than it had before, too human, like it had learned since the last time I saw it. Its proportions were better now, arms shorter, posture more relaxed, but it was watching me, head tilted. And I swear it smiled even from that distance. Not wide or friendly, just enough to show it knew I was stuck. Knew I couldn't go forward, or back without passing it again. I'd put the truck in reverse, just a tap to feel the gears click in. And when I looked in my mirrors, God help me, there was another one behind me, standing dead center in the road, identical, same glowing. Eyes, same learning posture, like a copy. I was boxed in, and they knew it. My breath started coming faster, hands shacking on the gear stick. I thought about honking the horn, flashing the lights, doing anything to scare them off. But something deep in me, some gut-level instinct, told me that noise might only make things worse. Like they were drawn to sound. Or maybe they were waiting for me to panic, like a deer frozen in the beams, just waiting for the truck to get close enough to run it down. So I sat, frozen. My truck, my steel cage, wasn't feeling too safe anymore. It felt like a trap, a stage. And I was sitting center spotlight with no clue how the scene was supposed to end. I didn't move. I couldn't. My legs felt like they'd been filled with wet cement, and my fingers gripped the wheel so tight they'd gone numb. The figures didn't come closer, but they didn't leave either. They just stood there like they had all the time in the world, like this was a game they'd played before. My engine idled in a low, rhythmic thrum, but the sound barely cut through the heavy quiet outside. It was like I'd slipped into a place where time moved sideways, where the rules didn't apply, and I was the only one who hadn't gotten the memo. Finally, I cracked the window just enough to let in a sliver of air, and the second I did, the smell hit me. Not just roadkill or mildew, but decay. Thick, wet rot like a graveyard after rain. And behind that smell was something sharper, sour and strange, like copper and burnt sugar. My eyes watered and I gagged, slamming the window shut again. That's when I noticed something else. The CB lit up again, glowing faint green, and the speaker popped. A slow, dry voice came through, not mine this time, but close. Too close. Like someone imitating me? "You should have kept driven," it said. "You stopped again. That was it. No distortion, no static. Just clear as a bell and cold as ice." I stared at it, hands still trembling, and for the first time in a long while I felt genuinely small. Whatever this was, it knew me, or it wanted me to think it did. I didn't respond. I didn't dare touch the mic. I didn't want to talk to it. Hell, I didn't even want to acknowledge it. Because deep down, something told me that as long as I kept quiet, maybe, just maybe, it couldn't come closer. But then the CB crackled again. Another voice, this time different pitch, higher, more like a woman whispering through teeth. "He's in the mirrors now." That line, that one nearly stopped my heart. I turned my head so slow it felt like dream logic, every second stretching out too long. I looked into the driver's side mirror. Nothing, just darkness. I looked at the right mirror, still nothing. Then, against all my better judgment, I peeked up at the top center mirror inside the cab, and there he was. Not outside the truck anymore, inside, back seat, directly behind me. Just sitting there, no sound, no breath, no movement. His face was almost perfectly mine, but off like it had been built from a photograph taken at the wrong angle. The eyes were too wide. The smile was all teeth. I blinked, just once. And he was gone, not out the door, not under the seat. Just gone. I didn't even feel the cab shift like someone had moved. 1 second he was there. Next, empty space. My breath came in sharp, panicked bursts. I reached for the keys. Thought about killing the engine, maybe ending this loop by force, but I couldn't bring myself to turn it off. The hum of the truck was the only thing reminding me I was still in my world, still tethered to something real. Then I saw it. My own reflection in the windshield, only I wasn't moving. The real me. Had tears in my eyes, breath fogging the glass. The reflection didn't blink, didn't breathe. It just stared back at me and smiled. I looked away fast, heart pounding so loud it drowned out the engine noise. I focused on my hands still there, still mine. I flexed my fingers, gripped the wheel again, tried to remember how to breathe properly. In through the nose, out through the mouth. That's what they always tell you when you're trying not to lose it. But nothing about this felt like panic. It felt like being observed. Picked apart piece by something that knew exactly how to wear your face, how to sit still in the dark until you noticed it, and how to smile just the way you do when you're scared but trying to hide it. I shifted into drive, foot heavy on the gas, and pushed the rig forward like I was dragging myself out of a nightmare, but the road hadn't changed. Still that same damn coyote, still that same damn mile marker, still those shadows on the shoulder. I didn't even flinch. When I passed the man by the sign, this time I just kept going. Eyes forward, hands steady. But the farther I drove, the more I noticed the lines on the road had started to blur. Literally, the white stripes melted slightly, like they were drawn in chalk and someone had dragged their boot across them. Then the pavement itself got weird less. Smooth, more like old concrete from an abandoned parking lot. Cracks, weeds, oil stains that didn't match the shape of any engine I'd ever seen. It looked like a road trying to pretend to be real, but forgetting the details. I tapped the brakes. Not slammed, just a test, and sure enough, the sound it made wasn't right. It didn't squeal or hiss, it echoed. Echoed like I was in a tunnel, except there weren't no tunnel. Just flat road, open sky, and that sense of something watching. I checked my mirrors again, every one of them, slowly. No figure in the back seat this time, no face in the glass. But when I looked out the passenger window, I saw movement, just a flicker but enough, ahead, just the top of one. Bold, pale, barely peeking above the window line like someone was crouched just outside, keeping pace with the truck. I didn't stop, didn't slow down. I locked the windows, even though I knew damn well whatever that was didn't need a door to get in. Then, from the radio dead silent until now, I heard something soft, a child's voice. "You're going the wrong way, mister." The voice was calm, flat, like it didn't care what happened either way. I turned the knob, static burst through, then silence again. I couldn't take much more. My hands were soaked, sticking to the wheel, and my mouth was so dry it felt like cotton had been stuffed in my throat. I needed out of that loop, out of that truck, out of whatever pocket reality I'd driven into. And that's when I saw the sign, not a mile marker this time. A hand-painted wooden sign off the side of the road. Looked fresh, like someone had just stuck it in the dirt. It said, "You'll make it if you don't look back." And underneath it scrawled like a warning in red knot paint, "This is your last loop." Now, I ain't the superstitious type, at least I wasn't back then. Signs like that, hand-painted, half-buried in roadside brush in the middle of nowhere, they scream setup. Like someone wants you to see it, like it's part of the trap. Something about that message, it didn't feel like a threat. It felt like a chance. And buddy, when you've been driven in the same endless circle of highway, smelling death and hearing voices that ain't yours, a chance is all you need. I gritted my teeth, pressed down on the pedal, and told myself out loud, "Don't. Look back, not once. Not in the mirrors, not out the side windows, not in the reflection on the glass, just eyes forward." That's easier said than done, let me tell you. Every instinct in me was screaming to check those mirrors, to make sure nothing was creeping up behind me. But I didn't. I locked my eyes on the faded center line and counted every broken dash like it might keep me sane. 1, 2, 3. They started coming faster, like the truck was picking up speed on its own. I didn't care. I welcomed it. That's when the sound started, not the truck. Not the road. Something was pounding against the back of the cab. Not hard, not angry like knuckles, gently knocking, tap, tap. I swallowed hard and clenched my jaw so tight it hurt. Still didn't look. Then came the whispers from inside the cab, from the back seat that should have been empty. "You left us. You brought this. We only wanted a ride." Their voices were soft and overlapping, like they weren't talking to me but around me. Like I was just there, eavesdropping on the dead. The truck shuddered, not from the engine but like something was moving underneath. I kept driven. I didn't blink. I didn't breathe. I just held on and told myself it had to end. The sign said last loop, and I was hanging onto those words like they were gospel. That's when I saw it, the exit ramp. It wasn't on any map. No lights, no markings, just a rough patch of gravel breaking off from the highway with a crooked wooden sign above it that read, "Out." That's it, just out? I didn't think. I turned the wheel hard, the whole truck lurching onto the ramp, trailer fishtailing just a bit behind me. And the moment I hit the gravel, the sound stopped. Just like that, silence, not empty. Scary silence, real silence. The kind you don't notice till it's gone. No voices, no knocking, no whispering. No more twisted reflections. I drove slow down that path, watching the gravel crunch under my lights, and after maybe a quarter mile, the road smoothed out again. Blacktop, familiar. I passed a highway sign, Route 89, northbound. It was real. It felt real. I checked the dash clock. 3:42 am, finally moving. My GPS blinked back to life. Cell service came in. I was back. I'd made it. Whatever I'd driven through, whatever loop that was I'd gotten out. But here's the thing, as relieved as I was, I didn't celebrate. I didn't cheer. I didn't even cry. I just drove, calm, quiet, because deep down I knew something. That sign didn't say the danger was gone. It just said don't look back. And friend, I haven't, not once, not in the mirrors. Not even now, because if I do, if I so much as glance over my shoulder, I got a feeling that man with my face. And someone else's smile will be right there? Waiting to finish what he started, I stuck to daylight driven after that. No more midnight runs, no back roads, and absolutely no shortcuts, especially the kind that don't show up on GPS. I told dispatch I'd do local hauls. Maybe regional at best, but I wouldn't run past dark. They thought I was burning out. Said I needed a vacation. Maybe I did, maybe I still do. But they didn't see what I saw. They didn't hear their own voice coming through the CB or see their own reflection grinning like it wanted to wear their skin. I didn't tell them. The truth, would you? You think anybody's gonna believe you when you say the highway looped you like a track and something climbed inside your truck that knew how to be you? I didn't even believe it myself, except every night since. I still leave the cab light on, just so I can see what's behind me. I still don't look in the mirrors after sundown, not once. And I cover the center mirror with an old rag just to be safe. Some habits ain't worth unlearning. What gets me, though, is how normal everything seemed once I got back. Like the world had reset itself. Truck still ran fine. Logbook was still stamped. My phone showed no missed calls, no weird timestamps, no gaps. But when I checked the odometer, the numbers didn't match the miles I thought I'd driven. They were short by. Exactly 89 miles, same number as the highway. It was like those miles never happened. But I remember them, every second, every damn loop. And every time I close my eyes, I can still hear that CB buzz to life and whisper, "You stopped again." I tried to move on. Did a couple runs up through Nebraska, one out to New Mexico. The further I got from that stretch of Route 89, the easier it was to breathe. I started feeling almost normal again until about a month later. I was parked at a rest stop outside Flagstaff. It was just getting dark. I wasn't planning on moving till morning. I had the cab curtains pulled, little battery fan buzzing on the dash, and a sandwich in my lap. That's when I heard it 3 knocks. Light, deliberate, on the back of the sleeper. Tap, tap, tap. My blood ran cold. I froze. Didn't breathe. I told myself it was just some punk kid or a drunk trucker mistaking my rig for theirs. Happens more than you'd think. I sat real still, hands sliding down to the crowbar I keep between the seats. Waited a few seconds, then came the voice, same as before. Same quiet whisper that sounded like me. He's in the mirrors now. My heart about stopped. I didn't turn around. Didn't open the curtains. I just reached forward, turned the key, and drove. Didn't matter where, just away. I ain't stopped at a rest area since. I keep moving until the sun comes up. Sometimes I think it followed me. Other times I think maybe I never left that loop, that maybe I'm still driven it and only think I got out because every now and then the clock on my dash freezes. Always at 2:17, and I swear I see a crook sign by the roadside that reads one word in red letters, OUT. And every time I see it, I feel that same knot tighten in my gut, like my insides remember what my brain's trying hard to forget. I keep driving past it now. I don't stop. I don't slow down. Because here's the truth. I don't know if that sign's trying to save me or trap me again. Maybe the first time was a test. Maybe I passed, or maybe I just got lucky. But luck don't last forever out here. Not on these roads. That night outside Flagstaff wasn't the last time I heard the knocking. It's happened 6 times since. Always 3 taps, always slow, spaced out like it's counting. I never open the curtain. I never check the back. Whatever it is, I think it's waiting for me to acknowledge it again. Like once you see it, really see it, it stays with you. Lingers. I'll be driven through some dead stretch of desert and catch something in my peripheral. Not full shapes, just impressions. A tall shadow standing 2 still on the horizon, a pale figure behind a fence. A face in a passing sign's reflection that ain't mine. And I never, ever check the mirrors after midnight. That's the rule. Now, I even taped a piece of paper over the top mirror just in case I forget. Wrote, "Don't look," on it in permanent marker. My buddy Hank, he's another long hauler, he laughed when he saw that. Asked if I was going crazy. I wanted to tell him everything. I really did, but when I started explaining, he got real quiet. Real still, then he just nodded and said, "Yeah. I think I passed that sign too once, wasn't sure if it was real." He didn't say nothing else. But a week later I heard over the CB he quit. Just up and left the keys in his truck and walked away. Nobody's seen him since, and the weirdest part? His truck was found parked on the shoulder of Route 89, door locked, lights off, CB still. On the dash clock, 2:17 a.m. I don't know what this thing is, or how it finds people, or why it plays with time the way it does, but I've got theories. Maybe there's some thin spots in the world's soft places where reality's worn out from too many footsteps, places where you can slip through without knowing it, where the road becomes a loop and the shadows learn. Your name, I think that's what happened to me. I think that's what's still happening. Sometimes I wonder if I'm just one missed turn away from going back into it, one late delivery, one wrong exit, one moment of forgetting the rule. Don't look back. Don't stop. Don't speak when it talks. And whatever you do, if you ever see that wooden sign that says, "Out, don't trust that you're safe," not right away, because, friend, I've been out here long enough to know. Some roads don't ever really let you leave, some nights. When the highway stretches out so long it feels like I'm the only soul left alive in the world, I get this itch deep down in the part of me that don't talk much. Like something's watching. Not the way you'd feel a cop following you with lights off or another driver tailing too close. This is different, older, smarter. It's like the road itself is leaning in, trying to hear my thoughts. And I swear if I listen hard, enough I can hear it breathin', not in the wind, not in the engine hum, but underneath all that. Like the sound of something too big to understand sleeping just below the pavement. And every mile I put behind me, every line that flickers under my tires feels like I'm just keeping it calm. For now, but eventually it always stirs. I remember this one night, couple months after Flagstaff. I'd taken a job I shouldn't have run through Utah. Pay was too good, too last minute. One of those don't ask, just drive type deals. The dispatcher didn't give me a clear destination, just a highway, a time, and a wait. Should have known better, but I took it. Midway through the run, somewhere past Moab, I got turned around. GPS went dead again. Dashboard clock flickered. My stomach dropped, cold and slow like water spilling over a sink edge. I knew. I didn't want to believe it, but I knew. The road was changing under me. I pulled off at a rest stop, no name, no signage, just a lone street lamp buzzing, with moths and a concrete building that looked like it hadn't been cleaned since the 80s. Stepping out of the truck felt like stepping into a freezer. Air was wrong, still, but not quiet. The kind of stillness that waits. I walked to the bathroom, just to splash water on my face, shake it off. Inside, the lights flickered. The mirror was cracked straight down the middle, and I swear when I leaned down to the faucet and looked back up, my reflection wasn't doing what I was doing, just standing there, looking at me, smiling wide and slow like it had all the time in the world. I didn't scream. Screaming don't work in these places. I just backed out, slow, careful, left the building, climbed into my truck, and didn't look at the glass once. That run? I never made the delivery. Turned around somewhere near the Nevada border and dumped the trailer at a way station. Walked away. Took 2 days to stop feeling like something was following me. You see, once you've driven through something, like that whatever that is, it marks you. It knows you. You're not just a traveler anymore. You're a witness, and the highway, it don't like witnesses. It wants silence, wants secrets. And when you don't play along, when you live to tell the tale, it starts sending reminders. Not right away. No, it waits. Waits till your guard is down. Till you think you're safe, and then one night the CB clicks on, all by itself, and you hear it say your name. The first time it said my name, I nearly drove off the shoulder. I was rolling through eastern Oregon, not a soul in sight, radio off, headlights cutting through fog so thick it felt like I was floating more than driven. I'd been humming to myself, trying to stay awake, when the CB lit up on its own, no button pressed, no squelch, just a hiss, and then clear. As day, like someone sitting right next to me. Eli. That's my name, not a common one out here. Most folks call me Red on account of the beard. Only my mother and DMV know me as Eli. So when I heard it come through the sea below, dry, spoken like someone tasting it for the first time, I froze. I reached for the mic with a hand that didn't feel like mine. I was shacking, skin cold, and my throat so tight I could barely breathe. I didn't press the button, just sat there, listened. Then it spoke again. You're getting close again, Eli. I slammed the mic down and shut off the CB entirely. Yanked the fuse out just to be sure, but it didn't matter. A few miles later, the cab filled with the smell again, that old meat. Rotting wood stink, like something was ridden shotgun that didn't belong to this world. I cracked a window and started praying out loud. Something I hadn't done since I was a kid, didn't do a damn thing. I started to wonder if maybe this whole stretch of road was just a long mouth, and I was already halfway down its throat. But here's the part that still gets me when I finally pulled over at a gas station near Pendleton. Hours later, shaken, heart racing, trying not to puke, I went inside to wash my face. Old place, tile cracked, buzzing lights, but clean enough. I looked in the mirror, nothing weird at first. Just me looking tired, pale. Then I noticed something drawn in the fog on the mirror, like someone had breathed on the glass and traced it with a finger. 3 words, "Don't go backy, wipe the mirror." Gone. Didn't sleep that night. Barely blinked. I've been obeying that message ever since. Never took a route that got me anywhere near 9 again. No more night hauls through Arizona. No more silence when I drive. I keep the radio on, even if it's just static, just to fill the cab with something. I don't trust the quiet anymore. The quiet listens. The quiet invites them back in. You don't just survive a night like that and go back to living normal. You start seeing the world different. You look at roads like they're alive. You look at rest stops like they're waiting for you to sleep so they can feed you to the dark. And you look in mirrors, not to see yourself, but to make sure. It's only you in there, because when that voice says your name once, it remembers it forever, and once it remembers you, it don't forget. Not ever. I've talked to a few other long haulers over the years, guys who've seen things they don't talk about until the 3rd or 4th beer. Usually late at night, engine off, sitting on the tailgate watching the stars in a nowhere. Truck stop, there's always a look in their eyes, like they've stared into a place that wasn't meant for us. One old-timer, I think his name was Clive, once told me, "You ever notice how some stretches of highway don't appear on the map no more? Like the road just changed its mind about being there?" He wasn't wrong. And when I told him about Route 89, the loop, the signs, the voice, he didn't laugh. He didn't even flinch, just nodded real slow and said, "Some roads don't take you nowhere, they just take you." That stuck with me, because the thing is, since that night, I haven't just been afraid of that one road. I've been afraid of all roads, of getting too far off route, of talking a detour without double-checking 6 different maps. Hell, sometimes even daylight feels suspicious. I've seen fog rolling fast as a blink and swallow trucks whole. I've seen drivers swear they were passing a certain stretch for the first time, only to find their own tire tracks already there. There's one thing they all say, those same phrase, same exact words, like it was whispered into don't look back. It ain't just a warning, it's a rule, a survival instinct, a line between this world and whatever's waiting just past the rear view. Now, I know some folks might say I've just been out on the road too long, that my mind's cracked a little from the loneliness and the miles. But let me tell you something, and you can laugh if you want, but if you ever find yourself on a stretch of empty road you swear you've already passed, if your GPS dies, and your clock freezes at 2:17 a.m., if the CB crackles with your own voice, whispering things you know you didn't say, if you see a wooden sign that says "out" nailed to a tree that wasn't there yesterday, then don't think, don't argue. Just keep driven, because the moment you look back, even just a glance, you're not leaving that road, you're joining it, and that road, it don't end. It stretches on through the cracks between places, runs under old towns that don't show up on any GPS, cuts through forests where even the trees seem to lean the wrong way, and slips into deserts where the stars flicker like they're watching. It feeds on stories like mine. Like yours, if you ain't careful. I've passed rigs sitting dead still on the shoulder with no one in them. Engines cold, hazard lights blinking, like the driver just vanished mid-breath. Like the seat still remembers their weight, but the world don't. And every time I see one, I think maybe they looked back. Maybe they didn't keep the rule. Maybe they listened when the voices started talking. That voice, I still hear it sometimes. Late nights, usually after 300 miles and too much coffee. When the hum of the wheels starts sounding like whispers. When the yellow lines stretch too smooth for too long, like they're drawing me into something deep. And then, quiet as a secret, Eli, you're still on the road. I turn the radio up. I sing. I roll the windows down no matter how cold it is. I fill the cab with anything that feels human. Because I know what silence brings. I've tried to trace it back. Find answers. Ask around at diners, lot lizards, guys in the shopyard. But the ones who've really been there, they never give you a straight answer. Some just change the subject. Some go pale and shake their heads, and a few just say, "You too, huh?" And leave it at that. One guy, real twitchy, fella named Mike, once told me there's a stretch of road that shows up different to everyone. For some, it's a desert highway with a single dead tree. For others, it's a long tunnel that never opens up. For me, it was Route 89, but the thing behind it? The loop, that ain't the road, that's what lives under it. Mike called it the hunger. Said it's been around since before we laid asphalt. Said it used to be rivers and paths and deer trails, and now it wears blacktop like a disguise. Crazy. Talk, maybe, but I haven't ruled it out. 'Cause after all this time, after all the miles, I know one thing for damn sure: roads remember you. Especially the wrong ones. Especially when you make it out, and ever since I did, I've been waiting for the day it tries to call me back. I know that day's coming. It's not a matter of if, just when. I can feel it inching closer every time I pass a stretch of highway that gets too quiet, too still. Every time the fog rolls in out of nowhere or the GPS reroutes without me touching a thing. Sometimes I'll glance down at the dash and my stomach knots up, waiting to see that damn time again, 2:17, and most times it's fine, but now and then, that clock freezes, even if just for a second. And in that second, I swear I can hear the road remembering me. Some nights I get dreams that ain't mine. Places I've never been, smells I can't name, faces I don't recognize, but somehow they recognize me. One in particular keeps coming back. I'm driven, but the world outside the windshield ain't right. The trees are all dead, but not fallen. Standing there like they're listening. The stars above look too sharp, like glass points instead of lights. And on the side of the road, there's a figure, tall still, pale eyes that glow without. Shining, no face, just awareness, like it ain't watching me. It's red in me. I wake up in a sweat every time, heart pounding, ears ringing, and the worst part, I'm not in a bed when I wake up. I'm in the truck, engine running, parked on the shoulder. Miles from where I remember stopping, I've started leaving a little notebook on my passenger seat. Whenever I stop for the night, I write the date, time, location, and the last thing I remember. I write it like a message to myself. 'Cause some mornings I get the feeling I wasn't the one behind the wheel the whole time. Like I blacked out. Or someone else wore me for a few miles. You want to know the scariest thing I've learned since that night on Route 89? It ain't the loops. It ain't the knocking on the back of the cab or the voices that mimic your breathing. It ain't the reflection that smiles before you do, or the signs that warn you when it's already too late. It's the idea that maybe, just maybe, that first time I thought I escaped, maybe I never really did. Maybe the road let me think I got out because it wanted me to tell the story, wanted me to spread it like oil slicking across blacktop. Every time someone listens, really listens, they start noticing strange things too. They start dreaming, start hearing their name in static, start feeling watched on roads they've driven 100 times before. That's what the hunger wants. Not just souls. Witnesses. And now that you've heard my story, you'll start seeing it. At first. It'll be small. You'll shrug it off. Maybe your rearview mirror'll fog up in a weird pattern. Maybe the street signs won't match your GPS. You'll figure it's just fatigue, bad weather, tech glitch. Hell, you might even laugh. That's what I did. But then, one night, Maybe you'll be driven back from a late shift or cruising down a quiet stretch between towns with nothing but static on the radio. And you'll catch something in your peripheral, a shape. Just standing there off the shoulder, tall, still, familiar, you'll blink and it'll be gone. That's how it always starts. You'll start feeling it before you see it. The cold in your lungs, the pressure in your ears, like the road sinking beneath your tires even though it's flat. You'll hear the CB pop on just a whisper at first, sometimes a laugh. Sometimes your own voice, calling out your name with the cadence of a memory you forgot was yours. You'll feel your hands tighten on the wheel, and your gut'll beg you to turn around. Don't, that's the test. The moment you look back, whether it's in the mirror or your mind you've opened the door. And buddy, once the door's open, it don't close easy. That's what happened to me. I didn't know the rules. I didn't know the cost of curiosity, and now I don't just drive with fear, I drive with company. Something that sits in the cracks of the cab, in the shadows I try not to check. It never talks much anymore. It don't have to, because now it's in me, not possessing me, not controlling me, nothing dramatic like the movies. It's worse, it's patient, it waits. Waits for the moments I forget to be afraid. Waits for my foot to ease on the pedal just a little too long on a lonely stretch of blacktop. And every time I pass a turn I don't remember talking or see. A rest stop that shouldn't be there. I feel it lean in closer like it's reminding me that I'm still marked, still part of the route. And now that I've passed this story on to you, you're marked too. Maybe not yet, maybe not tonight. But one of these days, you'll find yourself on a road that don't feel right. You'll feel that air change. You'll see the exit with the sign that just says out, and in that moment you'll remember my voice, you'll remember the rules. And you'll know this ain't just a story, it's a warning. Don't stop, don't speak. And whatever you do, no matter what you hear, don't look back, so now you know, and I get it, maybe you're sitting there, listening to all this, thinking I'm full of it, just some washed-up trucker with too many miles behind the wheel and too many horror movies in his head. That's fine, I don't blame you. I probably wouldn't believe it either if I hadn't lived it myself. I don't expect you to take every word as gospel, I just want you to remember it. Tuck it away somewhere in the back of your mind. You don't need to believe in monsters or haunted highways for the road to reach out and pull you under. You just have to be unlucky enough to take the wrong turn on the wrong night and never realize. You did. Most folks never come back from that kind of wrong turn. Or if they do, they're different. Hollow behind the eyes. Ain't just scared, they're changed. I've seen it in a few drivers I used to know. Guys who ran hard, lived free, told loud stories over coffee and greasy eggs. Then one day they stopped talking. Started looking over their shoulders too much. Jumping when the CB popped. They'd stare into the distance like they were waiting on something they couldn't explain. Like they'd seen too much, heard too much. Like the road had left a piece of itself in them. And me? I guess I'm one of the lucky ones. Lucky enough to come out the other side still remembering who I am. Lucky enough to still be driven, still moving. Because deep down, I know if I ever stop for too long, if I ever sleep too deep or settle somewhere too quiet, it'll find me again. That thing, that place, that loop, or whatever's behind it, it's waiting, always has been. Always will be. That's why I stay on the road. Not because I love the job anymore. Not for the money. Not even for the freedom. I stay because motion is the only thing keeping me tethered to the real world. It's the only thing that keeps it at bay. I got my rules now. My rituals. I keep the CB turned off unless I'm talking to someone I know. I cover every mirror in the cab after dark and I tape that rag across the center one, just like always. I keep a little tin cross in the glove box and a St. Christopher medal swinging from the dash. Don't know if they work, but they ain't hurting either. Most importantly, I don't stop at unmarked rest areas. I don't follow detours that show up last second. And I never pull off the highway when I see a wooden sign that says out. And if the dashboard clock ever hits 2:17 again, I know what I'll do. I'll keep driven, even if my body's screaming for rest. Even if the fuel light's blinking red. Even if I hear knocking from the back of the cab, or voices whispering my name from the CB, or see shapes moving along the tree line out the corner of my eye, I won't stop. Because I remember what it felt like the first time I got caught in the loop. That thick, unnatural silence, that suffocating cold. That smile in the mirror that wasn't mine. I escaped once, but deep down, I don't think it was because I was smart or strong. I think it let me go, let me live, because it wanted me to tell you. See, that thing, whatever it is, it don't feed on blood. It feeds on attention, on curiosity, on people thinking about it. Wondering, doubting, talking, listening. Just like you're doing right now. The more you wonder if it's real, the closer you get to seeing it for yourself. It wants witnesses. It wants believers. It wants new names to whisper into the radio static dots, so if one night you're driven a long, empty road and the GPS dies, if the time freezes, if a strange turnoff appears where there wasn't one before, remember this story. Remember me, Dot, and for the love of whatever you believe in, follow the rules. Keep your eyes forward. Don't answer your name when it's whispered. Don't check the mirrors after midnight. And whatever you do, don't look back, because some roads don't take you anywhere. They take you, Dot, and if they take you, you don't always come back the same.